I never thought the day would come when my own family would look me in the eye and tell me, without even flinching, that I didn't deserve to be in my sister's wedding photos unless I lost weight. Imagine being told that your body, the one you live in every single day, is somehow a threat to someone else's aesthetic. That your presence, the way you look, the space you take up, none of it is acceptable unless you shrink yourself down for their convenience. I sat there listening to them act like this was all normal, like it was no different than asking me to wear a specific color or show up on time. And in that moment, something inside me broke in a way I didn't even realize was possible. But the part that still twists my stomach is how casually they said it, how they played it off like they were doing me a favor. So here I am, telling you what happened, because I still wonder, was I wrong for what I did next? Or would anyone else have snapped the same way I did? The truth is, I didn't go to the wedding. I didn't smile for the cameras. I didn't stand by my sister's side like I was supposed to. Instead, I spent the entire day at a luxury spa that cost me $7K, fully pampered, fully relaxed, and fully done with all of their nonsense. But before I get into that part, I need you to hear everything. I need you to understand the build-up, the years of pressure, the emotional weight that wasn't measured in pounds, but in expectations and comparisons and constant reminders that I was never quite what they wanted me to be. By the time the wedding rolled around, it wasn't about weight anymore. It was about respect. So as you listen, tell me honestly, would you have done the same thing? Growing up, I was always the bigger sibling. Not necessarily in an unhealthy way, just naturally curvier, broader, softer around the edges than my sister, who seemed to float through life like she was carved out of a Pinterest board. Thin, blonde, perfect teeth, perfect posture, perfect everything. She was the golden child, the one who never broke rules, who got straight A's, who wore dresses that always fit perfectly off the rack. Meanwhile, I was the messy-haired, artsy, introverted one who preferred oversized hoodies and sketchbooks over dresses and makeup. We weren't opposites exactly, but we definitely fit two different aesthetics, and my parents made sure I was always aware of it. When I say it started early, I'm not exaggerating. My mom had this habit, one she probably convinced herself was normal, of making comments whenever I took seconds at dinner or grabbed a snack. "Do you really need that?" She'd ask with a smile so sweet it made my teeth ache. Or, "Let's save that for after the holidays." As if I was made of clay and she could mold me into whatever shape she wanted. My sister, of course, never heard those comments. She could eat anything, and they'd laugh about her metabolism or joke about how she'd burn it all off dancing around her room. Meanwhile, I'd feel the weight of every calorie like a spotlight shining directly on my plate. I wish I could say I brushed it off growing up, that I was confident enough not to let it get to me. But when your own family is the one feeding you those insecurities, it sinks in deeper than any stranger's words ever could. Every birthday party photo, every holiday picture, every school event, I could practically hear the unspoken judgment in the way they'd angle me, push me to the edge of the group, have me hold something in front of you, or stand slightly sideways, as if my body was some kind of optical illusion they needed to correct. And the worst part, I got used to it. I built my personality around invisibility, around taking up less emotional space, because apparently my physical space was already too much for them. But things took a new turn when my sister, Lily, got engaged. She announced it in the most Lily way possible, tears, shaky hands, perfect manicure, fiancé standing behind her smiling like they just stepped out of a wedding magazine. And I was genuinely happy for her, truly. I hugged her, congratulated her, asked for all the details. For once, I actually felt excited. Weddings are supposed to bring families together, right? New beginnings, celebrations, unity. I let myself believe that maybe this time for this event, I could simply be the sister, not the project, or the before picture no one asked for. But that hope didn't last long. 3 weeks after the engagement, my mom planned what she called a wedding prep meeting. It sounded innocent enough, a chance to discuss colors, dresses, timelines, whatever. I figured I'd sit there, nod along, maybe offer some ideas, nothing major. Instead, I walked into what felt like an ambush disguised as a casual conversation. Mom, Dad, and Lily were already seated at the dining table when I arrived. There was tea, cookies, and this odd tension in the air. Like they had rehearsed something and I had walked in on the final draft of whatever intervention they were planning. I sat down, still clueless, still trying to be optimistic. Lily was scrolling through Pinterest boards, talking about dresses, flowers, table settings, typical wedding things. I relaxed a little, thinking maybe I was overthinking the atmosphere, until my dad cleared his throat. Now my dad doesn't clear his throat unless something serious is about to be said. He looked at me with this expression that instantly made my stomach tighten. "Sweetheart?" he began, which was already a bad sign because he only calls me sweetheart when he wants to soften the blow of something unpleasant. "We want to talk to you about the wedding photos." I blinked, confused. "The photos? What about them?" My mom jumped in, her hands folded neatly like she was presenting a business proposal. "You know how important this day is for Lily. And we want everything to be perfect. The aesthetic, the theme, the visual harmony. Visual harmony." The words felt like tiny needles pricking my skin. Lily chimed in too, looking uncomfortable, but apparently not enough to stop what was coming. "It's just the photographer we hired has a very clean, minimalist style. Everything is very airy and elegant, and I want everyone to look cohesive." I still had no idea what they were tiptoeing around, but the dread was settling in quickly. "Okay," I said slowly. "And what does that have to do with me?" It was my mom who said it. She didn't hesitate. She didn't sugarcoat it. She just laid it out on the table like she was mentioning the weather. "We think it would be best if you lost a little weight before the wedding, just so the photos look balanced." Balanced. Like I was a lopsided piece of furniture throwing off the symmetry of the room. I felt the blood drain from my face. The room spun for a moment, and I almost laughed because who says that? Who looks at their own daughter, their own sister, and says something so cruel with a straight face? I looked at Lily, hoping she'd jump in, defend me, say this wasn't her idea. But she wouldn't meet my eyes. Instead, she stared at the table like the wood grain was suddenly fascinating. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Are you seriously telling me I need to lose weight to be in my sister's wedding photos?" Dad nodded gently, like this was totally justified. "Just a bit. These photos will last a lifetime." "And what?" I snapped. "You're scared you'll look back at them and regret having a fat sister?" My mom gasped, offended. "No one called you fat?" "You didn't have to," I shot back. "It's pretty damn clear what you meant." The argument spiraled from there. My mom insisted it was just a suggestion. My dad kept talking about health, and Lily finally piped up to say she didn't want any distractions in the pictures. Distractions. As if my body was a flashing neon sign drawing attention away from her perfect wedding dress. I should have walked out right then, but I stayed. I stayed because some twisted part of me wanted to hear more, to see just how far they'd go. And they went all the way. They presented me with a plan, a literal list of dieting schedules, workout videos, meal prepping ideas, and even a consultation with a nutritionist. All so I could look nice and cohesive. Standing next to the rest of the bridal party, I left that meeting numb. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't say a word. I just grabbed my things and walked out with the folder of weight loss plans, clutched in my hand like a piece of evidence. When I got home, I sat on my bed, opened the folder, stared at the neatly typed schedule, and felt something inside me harden. It wasn't sadness anymore. It wasn't insecurity. It was rage. Quiet, simmering rage that had been building for years but finally snapped free. For the next few days I refused to answer their calls. They texted me repeatedly, insisting they didn't mean any harm, that they were only looking out for me, that I was being too sensitive. Lily sent me a long message telling me she loved me, but that she also needed her wedding to look a certain way. To her, it was a simple request. To me, it was decades of being told I wasn't enough condensed into one demand. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew anything I said wouldn't change their mindset. They didn't see the problem. They didn't understand the damage. They thought the issue was my weight, but it was them. It had always been them. Weeks went by, and the wedding planning continued without me. I heard updates through distant relatives and social media posts. Bridesmaid dress fittings I wasn't invited to. Cake tastings I wasn't told about. Group photos of planning sessions where I wasn't included. Slowly, it became clear that they weren't just expecting me to change, they were phasing me out. And oddly enough, I didn't feel sad anymore. I felt free. But the real breaking point came when my mom showed up at my apartment unannounced one afternoon. I opened the door to find her standing there with this tight smile, holding another folder of ideas. Before I could protest, she pushed past me and walked inside like she owned the place. She sat down on my couch, crossed her legs, and said, "We need to talk before things get out of hand." I stayed standing, arms crossed. Out of hand. "You told me to lose weight to be in family photos." Things were out of hand the minute those words left your mouth. She sighed dramatically, like I was the unreasonable one. "We just want everything to go smoothly. Lily is stressed and we don't want any unnecessary tension." I laughed bitterly. Unnecessary tension. "Mom, you created the tension!" But she ignored that. Instead, she opened the new folder and showed me pictures of dresses, flowy, pastel, clearly chosen to flatter certain body types. "We picked your dress," she said, "but we ordered it one size smaller. You'll fit into it if you follow the plan." That was it. That was the exact moment something inside me clicked. The version of me who tolerated their comments, who bit her tongue, who tried to fit in, that version of me died right then. A new version took her place. One who wasn't going to contort herself to make other people comfortable. I took the folder from her hands, walked to the kitchen, and dropped it straight into the trash. Then I looked at her. "I'm not going to your wedding." She froze, mouth hanging open. "What?" "You heard me," I said. "I'm not coming." She jumped up, furious. "Don't be ridiculous!" "You're her sister." "Exactly," I said. "And if being her sister isn't enough unless I lose weight, then maybe it's better if I'm not there at all." She started yelling, insisting I was being dramatic, selfish, childish. She said Lily would be heartbroken, that family always comes first, that I was choosing pride over love. I let her rant. I didn't interrupt. I didn't argue. When she finally stopped, breathless and red-faced, I simply walked to the door and held it open. "Goodbye, Mom." She stormed out, muttering about how I would regret this. But I didn't. Not for a second. The days leading up to the wedding were surprisingly peaceful. Quiet, calming even. For the first time in my life, I wasn't bending myself around someone else's expectations. I didn't feel ashamed. I didn't feel obligated. I felt free. And with that freedom came an idea. One that started as a joke in my head, but quickly turned into a plan. If they didn't want me at the wedding unless I changed my body, then fine. I simply wouldn't be at the wedding at all. I would do something just for me. Something indulgent. Something that reminded me that I deserved care, respect, and comfort without conditions. Something that symbolized shedding the weight of all the years they made me feel small. So I booked a spa day. Not just any spa day, a full luxury package at one of the most exclusive spas in the city. The kind of place celebrities go. The kind of place my mom always said was too expensive or unnecessary. The package included everything: massages, facials, hair treatments, body scrubs, gourmet meals, a private sauna, and even a meditation session overlooking a rooftop garden. When I clicked, confirm booking, and saw the 47K total, I didn't even flinch. It felt like reclaiming something that had been stolen from me. And here's where I pause the story for just a second, not because we're at the end, but because this moment right here is where the decision truly took shape. This was the crossroads. So before I tell you what happened next, I want to ask you directly, what would you have done? If your own family demanded you change your body to attend an event that should have been about love and celebration, would you still show up? Or would you walk away too? Let me know what you'd do in my shoes, because what I did next, well, some people said it was the most satisfying thing I've ever done. The morning of the wedding arrived quietly, almost too quietly, like the world itself was giving me a moment to breathe before everything unfolded. I woke up without an alarm, sunlight filtering through my curtains, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel that familiar heaviness in my chest. I didn't feel pressure. I didn't feel dread. I didn't feel the weight of anyone else's expectations sitting on my shoulders like a boulder. Instead, I felt calm, almost serene. I stretched, stared at the ceiling, and let myself enjoy the silence that wasn't filled with my mom's voice telling me what I should look like, what I should wear, how I should change. Today was supposed to be the day I stood next to my sister as she got married. Today should have been filled with nerves about making sure her veil stayed straight or that she didn't trip walking down the aisle. But none of that was my responsibility anymore. Today, my only responsibility was myself. I got out of bed slowly, savoring the feeling. No rushing, no obligations, no rehearsed lines about how beautiful everything looked. I showered, put on a soft robe, tied my hair loosely, and looked at myself in the mirror without judgment for the first time in what felt like years. It was strange how foreign it felt to see myself without the echo of their criticisms in my head. For a moment, I touched my reflection like I was reassuring myself that I was still here, still whole, still worthy. Then I got dressed, comfortable, breezy clothes, nothing fancy, and grabbed my bag. My spa appointment was at 10 a.m. sharp, and the place was about 40 minutes away. The drive itself felt like therapy. Music up, windows cracked, morning air drifting in like a cleansing breath. I wasn't driving away from something. I was driving toward something new, something healing. When I arrived at the spa, the entrance alone felt like stepping into another world. Tall glass doors, soft ambient music, fountains trickling gently, and the scent of eucalyptus floating in the air. A receptionist greeted me with a warm smile that didn't hide judgment behind it, didn't scan my body up and down, didn't tighten when she looked at me. She simply said, "Welcome," and for once, I felt genuinely welcomed somewhere. She handed me a warm towel for my hands, a glass of infused water with lemon and mint, and guided me to a private lounge where I would wait for the first treatment. Plush couches, calming lights, and a quiet that hummed instead of weighed down. I sank into the cushions and let myself exhale fully, like my lungs were rediscovering how to expand. That was when my phone buzzed. Of course it did. Of course someone in my family would try to reach me right as the ceremony was getting ready. I looked at the screen and saw Lily's name. For a moment, I considered answering. Maybe she was calling to apologize. Maybe she finally understood. Maybe she realized that excluding your own sister from your wedding over her body was cruel. But then I remembered the weeks of silence, the way she didn't defend me, the way she let our mom dictate how I should exist. I let the phone buzzes until it stopped. I set it face down on the table, refusing to let their guilt seep in now. Not today. A spy attendant came to get me moments later, and I followed her down a hallway lined with candles and gentle music. The first treatment was a full body massage, the kind meant to release tension built up over years, not days. As she worked through the knots in my shoulders, my back, even my hands, I felt emotions surface in waves. Not sadness exactly, but relief. Relief that I had finally chosen myself. Relief that I had walked away. Relief that I had said no to the version of me they tried to mold and manipulate. And then, surprisingly, I felt anger again, but this time not chaotic anger. Controlled. Focused, righteous. The kind of anger that clarified things instead of overwhelming them. I thought about all the times I starved myself growing up because I wanted to fit into a family photo. All the times I felt like the odd one out because my sister fit into dresses easily and I didn't. All the times I skipped meals at school because I didn't want my mom asking me later what I ate. All the times they made comments disguised as concerns. I realized then how long I'd lived in that emotional prison without calling it what it was. When the massage ended, I felt like I had been wrung out and rebuilt. I slipped into a warm robe and was taken to a private sauna next. As I sat in the heat, sweat beading on my skin, I thought about the wedding happening miles away. The bridesmaids were probably getting their hair touched up. Lily was maybe taking photos in her dress. My mom was probably stressing about every detail, and here I was sitting alone, free and strangely empowered. I wondered if they had looked around and noticed the empty space where I should have been. I wondered if they realized that the balanced aesthetic they cared so much about now had an awkward gap in it. Did they regret it, or were they too stubborn to care? The next treatment was a facial. The esthetician gently cleaned my skin, applied serums, massaged my temples, and spoke in a soothing voice. She asked if it was a special occasion, and I almost laughed. I almost told her I was skipping my sister's wedding to be there. But instead, I simply said, "It's a self-care day." She smiled and said, "You deserve that." And even though she didn't know me, I let her words sink in because they felt true. My phone buzzed again, twice, then 3 times. I ignored it. I wasn't ready to let their drama invade my peace. Lunch was served next, a beautifully plated meal with fresh greens, grilled vegetables, and herb-seasoned salmon. Normally, I would have eaten quickly or distractedly, but today I ate slowly, mindfully, appreciating each bite, appreciating that I was eating for myself, not under a watchful eye or cynical comment. After lunch, the next appointment was a hair treatment, deep conditioning, scalp massage, the works. The warm water running through my hair made me feel like I was washing away more than conditioner. I felt like I was washing away voices that had followed me for years. When the stylist finished, my hair felt lighter, softer, healthier, and I realized that mirrors felt safer here than they did at home. By early afternoon, I felt refreshed in a way I didn't know was possible. That was when I checked my phone, not because I cared what they had to say, but because curiosity finally poked through the peace. I had dozens of missed calls and texts. "Mama, are you? We're worried." "My dad, you need to be here." "Stop being selfish." "Lily, I'm getting married today. Please don't ruin this." Then, hours later, "Mom, the ceremony is starting soon. It's not too late. Dad, if you cared about your sister at all, you'd show up." "Lily, are you really skipping my wedding?" And then, after the first look photos were done, "Mom, this is humiliating." "Daddy, everyone is asking where you are." "Lily, why are you doing this to me?" I stared at their messages for a long time, feeling a mixture of disbelief and disappointment. Not a single message said, "We're sorry." Not one said, "We were wrong." Not one acknowledged how they treated me. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about how my absence affected their image. I put the phone away again. The next treatment was a body scrub, a full exfoliation with warm salts and oils. As the attendant gently brushed away layers of dead skin, I imagined brushing away every comment that ever made me ashamed of my body, every moment I hid myself behind sweaters, every time I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like I was shedding an old version of myself physically and emotionally. By the time it was over, my skin felt renewed, my spirit felt renewed. Then came the meditation session. A quiet room overlooking a rooftop garden, soft mats, dim lights, and a guide who spoke in a voice so calming it felt like sinking into warm water. She led me through breathing exercises, grounding techniques, and moments of stillness I didn't even know my mind was capable of. For once, the noise in my head wasn't about my weight, my appearance, or my family. It was just quiet. After meditation, I returned to the lounge for tea. I sat there sipping chamomile, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. I imagined the wedding reception starting, guests taking their seats, the music beginning. I imagined my family scrambling to explain where I was. I imagined the photos being taken without me. I wondered if they still thought their choices were worth it, if excluding me for aesthetic reasons felt justified now that their perfectly curated photos had a missing piece. My phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't angry messages. It was something else. My cousin sent me a picture. A family photo, everyone smiling. Everyone posed perfectly. And in the very center was a noticeable space where someone should have been standing. It wasn't even intentional. The spacing just looked off. The symmetry wasn't there. The visual harmony they wanted so badly was broken. I stared at the photo for a long moment, then quietly laughed, not out of spite, not out of revenge, but because the irony was too perfect. They had pushed me away for the sake of perfection, and in the end, it was my absence that made everything look imperfect. My cousin texted again. I don't know what happened, but I support you. And that meant more to me than anything my immediate family could have said. As the spa day wound down, the final treatment was a warm bath in a private room, petals floating in the water, candles glowing, soft music echoing. I sank into the water and let everything wash over me, the anger, the hurt, the freedom. The sadness that still lingered because despite everything, they were still my family, and some part of me wished they had chosen love over judgment. The acceptance that maybe they never would, the understanding that I didn't need their validation anymore. When I finally got home that evening, the wedding was over. My dress, still in its garment bag, hung untouched in my closet. My shoes sat in their box. The card I had bought for Lily remained blank on my dresser. I unpacked my spa bag, set everything aside, and sat on the edge of my bed with a deep breath. Then my phone buzzed one last time. It was Lily. Her message was long, a mixture of anger, hurt, confusion, and ultimately blame. She said I abandoned her. She said I embarrassed her. She said everyone asked where I was and she didn't know what to say. She said she couldn't believe I chose myself over her once, in a lifetime moment. I read it all. I let the words sink in. Then I typed back. I didn't choose myself over your moment. I chose myself over being treated like I don't belong in my own family. I love you. But I won't shrink myself, literally or emotionally, to make you comfortable. When you're ready to talk with respect, I'll be here. I hit send. No response came that night, but I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I didn't regret it. I slept with the peace of someone who finally stepped out of the shadows. The next days were quiet. Tense, yes, heavy, yes, but quiet. Mom sent a long message about how disappointed she was. Dad sent a shorter one about family loyalty, but each one sounded more like guilt, tripping than genuine understanding. Lily didn't message again for 3 days. Then out of nowhere she called. I didn't answer at first, unsure of what to expect. But she called again, and again. Finally I picked up. Her voice cracked the moment she spoke. Not with anger this time, not with pride, but with something raw. I didn't realize how much it hurt you, she said softly. I didn't think. I should have defended you. I stayed silent. She continued, I'm sorry. I was so focused on the wedding being perfect that I let Mom convince me it was okay to treat you like that. I shouldn't have. I should have told her no. I should have said you were fine the way you are. I should have told her it wasn't her place. Hearing her say those words felt like rain after a drought. I exhaled slowly. It wasn't just about the wedding, Lily. It was years of feeling like I wasn't enough. I know, she whispered, and I want to fix it. The conversation was long, emotional. Honest, she apologized again. I cried a little. She cried more. She told me the photos felt incomplete without me. She told me she regretted letting the pressure get to her. And even though the damage wasn't magically undone, it felt like the first real step toward healing. The next week she came over. No photos, no wedding talk, no wait comments. Just two sisters sitting together, finally seeing each other clearly. And maybe that was the real ending I needed. So if you listen to this entire story, if you've followed every messy detail, every emotional turn, then here's what I want to leave you with: you don't owe anyone a version of yourself that hurts to maintain. Not even family. Especially not family. You deserve to be loved as you are, not as someone wants to reshape you into. If you were on my side through all of this, like this video, if you believe choosing yourself is sometimes the most powerful thing you can do, make sure to subscribe for more stories like this. And before you go, tell me in the comments, what would you have done? Were my actions justified? Did my family go too far? I want to hear your thoughts on this whole mess.